Hello. Is it the same day and I recorded 2 videos at once? Or am I just wearing the same clothes because I'm out of laundry? That's a secret I'll never tell. Well, it is Monday, Thursday. If you're watching this in the future, this is Holy Week. And this is Monday, Thursday. So, big day in Holy Week. So I figured since it's Monday, Thursday, I ought to talk about some stuff that actually happened on that day. So we're going to be talking about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. And what that all entails and what it means and all that fun stuff. A little fun fact about Gethsemane, actually, is that word means olive. So after the Last Supper, Jesus took his friends to an olive garden. Now for a completely different note. Jesus is in agony when he's in the garden. He is in utter torment because he knows exactly what's going to happen. So if we look at Matthew, I think it's Matthew 26. So if we look at Matthew 26, verse 38, we see this. Then he said to them, I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me. This is Jesus talking to the disciples. He is asking his friends to support him, which is really interesting because Jesus is God, but he's also man, and that is what this whole video is going to be about. Can you imagine having the knowledge of exactly when, where, and how you are going to die? What anxiety you must have. For 30-some years of Jesus' life, he'd known exactly when, where, and how he was going to die. And now, at the night before it was going to happen, he's in agony. And that is why he's telling his friends and the disciples to stay awake with him and give him one last night with his friends. Clearly, he doesn't want this to happen. I mean, I don't know anyone who would want their own death to happen, even Jesus. Verse 39, we see this. And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not what I want, but what you want. So 2 things are happening. First of all, he's pleading with God not to let this happen. He doesn't want to die, clearly. He's still a man, and he's afraid of dying at the hands of the people he loves and the people he's been ministering to for years. However, he does understand that his Father's will comes first. That's why he says, let this cup pass from me, yet not what I want, but what you want. So this, once again, if you've been following along at home with the other videos I've been making, shows the full humanity and full godliness of Jesus. What's interesting is these 2 parts of him, they're not competing with one another, they're fulfilling each other. Even though Jesus is scared, he will still do what God says. And even though he knows he's going to die, he's still going to do it. So he does this twice. He has a very similar prayer later on in the passage. But between each one, something different happens. Each time he prays, he comes back to the disciples and sees they're asleep. Obviously, he's angry with them, or at least disappointed. And in verse 41, he says this. Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. That's a really interesting way to say things. So let's take Jesus' prayer and put it in the eyes of the disciples. The disciples, if this is true, if what Jesus said is true, which obviously it is, they would say, let this cup pass from me, and then they'd promptly go buy a ticket to Canada and hide for the rest of their lives. Our spirits are willing to do anything for God, but our flesh, that fallenness in us from sin, stops us from doing that. We have this block that Jesus didn't have because he was fully human and also fully God. So what does this mean? Our spirits are willing. We want to live for God. Each person has this urge to live for something greater. Some people see that as New Age spiritualism. Some people see it as God like we do. Others just see it as being a good person. But we all have this striving to be better. But because we're fallen, we can't get there. Our flesh is unwilling to reach to the heights that we want to be. And this is another reason Jesus died. Jesus died and redeemed the fallenness in our souls upon the cross and the resurrection. He literally freed humanity from the bonds of sin. So our souls and our flesh can be willing and able to reach for God. He is the bridge between us and the Father Now, this doesn't necessarily mean we can't sin anymore. Clearly we can. Just look outside. But we're fully redeemed from those sins. We sin, and the blood of Christ washes us clean if we repent, like I said in my last video. So if we follow him, we can be redeemed. Our spirits are willing to reach for that, but with Christ, it becomes our flesh as well. We can then fully and humanly reach for God and not have to worry about sin holding us back because we have been freed by Jesus. All right, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and leave a comment and start a conversation. If you want to see more, let me know. And I will see you in the next video.